This is a preamble to a video I did a couple of days ago. I haven't posted, but I'm going to attach this as a little preamble to the video about the situation that we're in with the event that is carrying on. And this is a local national news network called Global National. They report on news. And oh, did I have, I got a major shock. I was listening to our leaders briefing today to the population. It's like Churchill during the war giving his little speech to the population to keep up your spirits and we're there for you. It's the all there for you stuff all the time. I find this person to be totally disingenuous, and now I'm going to tell you, and unfortunately, there is an unfortunate here that I was going to capture what it is that he said and I missed it. But here is a shout out to YouTubers like Zach Hubbard, I think his name is Hubbard, Zach Hubbard, Gematria Guy, and Mr. Cat Eye, and the Quantum of Conscience fellow, Matt, who do their analysis of reality, and they use the number guys do it very well. I must say, I have regard for their insights and how they are able to analyze events, the numbers, the names, convert them into the equations or the numbers that they represent. And there is a pattern, there's a ritual in this. And today I got a snootful myself on how this, what the Matt from Quantum of Conscience says is possibly a simulation. I don't know about simulation like the Matrix idea, but what I just came across now was I was listening to the briefing, and about 17 minutes in, the Prime Minister says, after he's being asked a question by the fake media types, they never really ask him the tough questions. It's always, how much of a handout are you going to give to everybody? So he was answering a question about opposition, the parliamentary opposition. Are you in contact with them? Oh yes, I'm conferring with them all the time. I'm like really, talking. And the idea of coming back to Parliament has been floated around, but it's not a good idea because we got to keep distance, and you can't keep distance and all that kind of stuff. So at a certain point, about 17 minutes in, which I wanted to capture, he says, and it's not a good idea that on Monday, 333 members of Parliament return. It would not be a good idea. And all their staff, it would not be a good idea. And I said, wait a minute, what did he just say? 333 members of Parliament. Well, in Canada, there are 338. Still, there's a 33 there, but 338. But he said, I heard this, 333 members to come back on Monday with all their staff is not a good idea. And I thought to myself, what a little time frame, what a tell me, what a truth drop about what's really going on. Now people say, well, you're just making this up. And like I say, I really regret not having just stopped the video there. I returned actually twice to listen, to hear him say 333, and I didn't capture it. I didn't do like what I'm doing here. I didn't capture it. So, I wrote underneath, here you see my comment, in today's briefing, our PM said that it was not a good idea for 333 members of Parliament to return on Monday. I said, did he forget that there are 338 members who sit in the House? Or was this a signal that this COVID event is something other than what it appears, and our fake news media is reporting what they are told by the 333 bunch? And then I put this at where it was supposed to be, where I heard it. I said at 37:55, when I went back to capture it, it was gone. It was scrubbed. It was elegantly scrubbed. And what I'm really kind of worked up about is I'd never been able, I know this reality is not what it appears to be, but the extent to which this AI, whatever it is, within minutes, could come in and scrub this, clear this. You don't even see a flicker in the screen. It's not like the shitty moon shots, moon landing shots of all fuzzy stuff and things are very unclear or cut up, and none of that. It is extremely well covered up because I saw no flicker in the screen or anything. So I just thought I'd do this as a preamble. I sound a little bit shocked. It's because I didn't think I would come across such an obvious, clear event that I would be able to capture, and then quick enough, you know, these people here come back and it all appears very normal. And I talked to an acquaintance from Germany who lived in Spain, or he's living in Spain and Germany, and he thinks it's perfectly all right. I mean, yeah, there's something wrong here, but it's perfectly all right. So, you know, it's kind of like you have to be attuned to it to some extent, like I am to this number thing happening, the 333, and then my reaction time obviously wasn't fast enough. I wonder if other people out there that were listening to this broadcast, this briefing. There must be lots of people that were listening to it live, and it had to be there in the live format. I was about 5 minutes behind in the video. He came on maybe 5-10 minutes earlier, so I was a little bit behind, but it was still in the video, 5, 6, 10 minutes behind the time. And I wonder if other people had heard it. Anyway, the media, the videos, it's possible to completely, totally manipulate them without any kind of residue of suspicion. None whatsoever. Phenomenal, phenomenal. How do we get ourselves out of this shitter that we're in now? I've been thinking all day today. Letting things go through my mind again. I made a video on consciousness, and it was a bit of a rambling video, but I feel that my contribution through this medium, through this YouTube medium, is not to present information, but reflections, even sometimes insights. And information is not inspiration. And I feel when I listen to people I like, the amazing Polly, or Murphy, allegedly Dave, or the Corbett Report, or I have problems with a lot of their material, but there is an honest desire to overcome something. Even the dogmatic types, like the SGT types, those dogmatic religious types, I have appreciation and understanding and even some empathy. But fundamentally, what I was thinking, information is not inspiration, will never lead to inspiration. There has to be some other form in our essential makeup. There has to be something in the way, okay, we are a certain way. We're built a certain way. We do certain things. We have essential necessities that need to be fulfilled in order for us to function properly. As this is removed from us, we become most likely we become toxic and dysfunctional in an emotional way and in a physical way. So what I'm thinking about, how do we get out of this shitter, right? It's like I'm listening to people present with understanding, with recognition, the circumstances we're in. Okay, that's a priority. I suppose this is something that we need to be able to identify. So all the people that are going along to get along, they're going to go onto the boxcar. This is not the person I'm talking to. This is never the person. And others who are making presentations often say, you know, go away. Don't listen to my channel if you're not appreciative of what it is that I'm saying. I don't need your criticism. Go away. Well, I'm not even so much thinking about the people that are that have not within themselves discovered something that is, as I would like to say, inspirational within themselves. And it's not something that comes from outside, although we can be encouraged, or we can be prodded along by something that is that comes towards us, that is feels like an excitement, feels like I recall for the first time looking at art in a way that, or paintings by a painter that I'd never looked at in that way. But it was reliant on something I had discovered within myself. I had to understand something in myself to appreciate something that's outside and make sense of it. I was inspired through something that I had discovered within myself in order to perceive something that is out there. And all the teachers that I had were not of significant influence on me if they just gave me a whole bunch of information about what other people had done. Something else is required. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I feel, that in order for us to escape this trap that we have over a long period of time, I'm convinced this is not just some event that has occurred that allows the reptiles to create rules and regulations that fundamentally mimic a third world war. We're in a third world war here. We're in a war for our survival. And it's ironic because it has nothing to do with a military war or bombs going off or some adversary who is lined up at the border and crosses. This is literally a war now. We are in a state of survival, both physically, but more importantly, spiritually and emotionally, because we're not being threatened by bullets. Well, not yet, but it may develop into this as it escalates, and this will escalate. Now, I did a video, I said, round one of this flu thing is over. And I think, I looked at the chemtrails, I said, there are no chemtrails. There have been virtually no lines in the sky over the last 3-4 weeks. The odd time it happens. So I thought, well, and then one day they were back, and I said to myself, well, the system is going to start up again, and it starts up with the lines in the sky. Well, they're gone. So maybe round one is not over. We're just getting deeper now into round one, whatever that round is. And in our area here, the pronouncement came from the little piggy man that runs the joint in our province, Ontario, has just declared another 4 weeks of lockdown. How long will this continue? How long will this continue? Until there is an inspiration. Until there is an inspiration in enough people to warrant a change. And this is as I see the real problem that we have. People are no longer inspired. And I guarantee all these presenters that are out there giving us the facts is not going to inspire anybody. It never has, it never will. What's involved? What's involved? I'll give a little example about my own work. I put up a painting, what you see behind me. And this may make sense to you. Well, it really works for me in terms of what motivates me to come to the studio. So what you see behind me is a representation of a very famous copy of a copy. Millet painted what he called the Sower, and Vincent van Gogh, who was a great admirer of Millet, you can research these artists, most people know Van Gogh, painted the Sower. So as I am inspired by a painter like Van Gogh, who has a very lively, very active, very vibrant brush work, color going on in his paintings, much more so than Millet. Millet was he had rather, relative to Van Gogh, rather dark colors. All right, so I took this painting, I primarily looked at Van Gogh, not Millet, because I felt that Van Gogh was much closer to my own feelings. And I made this painting. And within my process, like I've said, I've made presentations indicating to some extent, my process, although I'd rather not give too much away, because there's a magical feeling when you go up to something and you say to yourself, oh, how was this done? And you know, intelligent, thoughtful people can figure stuff out more or less, I'm sure. But there are elements in the way I work that create the image that you will see. All right. So here is this image based on a way of working. I have created an image that comes out of art history. I love going into art history. It's almost like an homage feeling where I find inspiration through my own understanding of myself, how I work. I see inspiration outside of myself, or I get inspiration from things that I look at because I understand something within myself. So here's this painting that you're seeing behind me. I realized that in the process of duplicating images, I ended up with the sewer, and in his gesture and mirroring himself, is actually appearing to me to be in a conflict, a battle. It's sort of like he's got the seed and he's throwing his seed. He's got one arm into a seed bag, and another hand is throwing. And in the way this image appears, you can check out the original. You can look at Millet and Van Gogh. It appears that punches are about to be thrown. These are two adversarial characters throwing a punch. And this was quite inadvertent. This is not something I thought about, but the impact of the painting changes, and the context of the painting has been completely changed. At least I think. I don't think there was any kind of adversarial vision in Van Gogh or Millet, although Millet defended the worker and Van Gogh likewise defended the vulnerable. He himself was quite vulnerable, but he ministered to the vulnerable. He was a minister for a while, trying to help poor souls less fortunate than he was, and it ended dreadfully for him. But anyway, there was this sense of, in the painting, there is a sense of, I suppose maybe nature is somewhat adversarial, but on the whole, there is no real indication for me that there was a conflict per se, although this painting has now turned into, after I had done this. This isn't something I was thinking about. This is to do with inspiration, what gets us out of the shitter, what makes us want to get and accomplish something. This is how it works. That's what I'm saying. Rather than telling you all the facts and figures about how the reptiles are now managing to lock down all of the planet, which is absurd, totally absurd. It shows that there is no such thing as individual governments anymore. This has all been orchestrated and designed to be exactly what it is. Okay, so the painting. I'm working under extreme pressure. I'm working under extreme pressure, realizing what I realize. I don't need somebody to give me the information how bad it is. So I'm relating this to the painting that I made. This painting right here, I'm relating to what it is that I made here. And what I've made is I've taken an innocent image and created quite a dramatic reversal, almost. A reversal. I reversed this idea of the sower into a very antagonistic, adversarial image. And it also goes back to another painting a painter that I really admire, Goya. He painted two men with cudgels, I think they're called. They're two guys buried to their waist with clubs, pummeling each other. This was a very poignant image. I used it in order to paint another painting I did in my Kabbalah series that I called Abel, single body with two heads and pummeling himself. And this is kind of a curious thing that happens. I don't think about these things. I make the connections after. So what I've basically done, I've taken something, I have taken something that I am sympathetic, empathetic to the world out there in other artists, and I reversed its context to fit the time that I'm in. And the time I'm in is I'm not in Milet's time, where fundamentally you had to go and by the sweat of your brow you survive, because the seeding and all of this, the ordinary person. And now what's happened is, this is so dreadful, is that we're literally pummeling ourselves without having that inspiration. We are no longer inspired to supersede the directives that are coming from outside. We're allowing someone inside of us that has no place to be there and giving us direction. That's what this painting is about. That's what I'm saying. We're allowing someone to alter our reality into a negative existence. Okay, so my thrill, it's probably rather egotistical to be thrilled by one's own work, but I am thrilled. It doesn't make me stop painting because I'm thrilled. No, it makes me want to make more paintings, basically, when this happens. What I'm saying, these kind of experiences are essential and necessary in order for something to change in the way we see the world, perceive the world, in the way we actually facilitate a different reality than the one that we're in. I wanted to make this because I'm thinking about it. I'm doing menial tasks in the studio. But I thought about this today, listening to different people that I really like and appreciate, but this continuous, I understand, this fixation on how dire our situation is. Yes, I agree. And if you notice in my last video, I maintain a sense of humor. I don't feel very humorous about this. I think we're in a real shitter. How do we get out of this, right? So I'm thinking, what in my small way, what is it that I understand that I would be able to contribute to someone who listens to me that does not regurgitate the same thing and keeps us locked into a perception, into a sense of self that feels like we know what's going on, but in fact, nothing is happening. We're static. We're not moving. We're not getting out of this mucky fuck, even though it's quite admirable to research and look at the situation and come to conclusions. The way, let's say this, I bring him up quite often, this quantum of conscience guy. He's excellent. Or who I really like, John Levy. He talks about historical, the buildings, architecture, how they could never have been built with the technology. Right now, we could never build the buildings that were built 300, 200 years ago. And they're gone, they're being erased because they represent a higher part of ourselves that has been lost because we've been driven into a very narrow corral. These magnificent buildings that he shows were built by people that were inspired, that were consummate craftsmen, to be able to make something that was so complex 200 years ago, a building, a city hall. He went to one in Philadelphia. Okay, I'm getting off track again. My point is, I appreciate people that reach me, like this John Levy guy, what he's passionate about researching this, and even the quantum of conscience guy, although he's a broken record with how reality is not what it appears to be, and he comes up with all the indications, the proofs. Yes, he's done it definitively, but we're not going to get anywhere with listening to people like that. I'm not going to get anywhere listening to people like that, because what is required? What is required for us to overcome this incredible manipulation is to begin to live our birthrights, our inspiration, our creativity, our sense of self. This takes work. This isn't just something that falls in our plate. We have to actually do the work. And the work isn't going on YouTube or listening to people presenting the facts and the information. That's not how it works. That's my contribution. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's I understand the frustration people feel, especially when they have this sense of connection to something that is larger than themselves. It's not just their personal circumstances. It's more than that. Like I say, I listen to different presenters, like allegedly Dave or the amazing Polly. I really like her, and she is wonderful in exposing and researching the subject. But it's not going to make a difference until there is some inner revolution that happens personally. It's not something that is going to be like I shouldn't say what it's going to be. It could happen at any moment. Like this painting behind me. I wasn't thinking about this, but I realized that I was completely reversing the context of what was originally meant by this without being glib or cartoonish about it. I'm not interested in trivializing reality in a cartoon-like way. There is an organic way in expressing without intellect getting in the way. It's like representing. The reason I mention cartoons, I like cartoons, but and some of these people have been brilliant, like Robert Crumb. I think his name was Robert Crumb. The cartoon aspect, I have no inclination to like I say, trivializing reality by cartooning in some way. It has to be an organic way, and paint is wonderful in this sense because paint is totally organic, and it requires an organic response, and it can't be like filling in the lines or filling in the spaces. That's not how a good painting ever happens. It's something that it comes out of a necessity, like Kandinsky talks about. If you want to look into, Kandinsky has a very good perspective on what it is that makes a painting elegant, beautiful, superb. He talks about necessity. And this is what has happened. This is what I feel has happened here. Necessity kicked in terms of the time that I feel I live in. I cannot pretend that we're just throwing seeds like Millet. I'm not diminishing whatsoever. And Van Gogh escalated that sensibility in his own work by the energy that he brought to it. And what I realized I had done is I created a concept that was a reversal of what it is that I had originally perceived, which creates an ability to understand what it is I need to do personally in order to live right now. It's, yeah, I hopefully I'll be able to state all of this more simply and not so long-winded. It's over 20 minutes again. I was just going to say, look, the information isn't going to do it. People, you can sit on your screen forever and listen to the information. You'll just sort of wither away with it. There has to be some motivation, more than just being reactive to something that you think is happening or somebody tells you is happening. There has to be more than just a reactive thing. It has to be an organic growth within each of us. I always come back to this like a broken record. And once, you know, I'll promise, once I've figured this out, how to whatever confusion there might be in people when you listen to me. I mean, Maria quite often says you're just rambling, and this may be true, is because my own understanding is growing as I become aware of this. And as we proceed down this road, this very nasty path, the boxcar has been parked on the rails and people are getting in. People are getting in by the loads, by the millions and millions and millions are going into this boxcar now. It's parked and people are willingly walking in. This is frightening. This is history repeating itself, but not in the way that we thought it would be. It's different. It's not the way we thought of it. We have to think of history and apply it to the time that we live in, and not see it like literally like a boxcar with wheels. Now our houses have become the boxcars, the prisons that we live in. You see what I'm saying? We need to feel the inspiration to see the reality that we're in. We're not going to understand through just the information. We need to be inspired. And I'm not admonishing people like a lot of others who say, hey, you sheeple, get off your ass. That's never worked. Wake up, wake up. That's never worked. Mr. SGT, wake up, wake up. I'm so awake. Yeah, you're not awake. You're doing the same old, same old. I should get this. I'm not admonishing. I'm saying be inspired.